Today we're talking about Good Will Hunting, a story about a young man who works as a janitor but secretly has a genius mind. His life takes a big turn when a professor discovers his talent, and soon he has to choose between running from his past or facing it to build a better future. The story begins at a famous college in America called MIT. Right now, we see Professor Gerald teaching his math class. After the lecture ends, he tells his students that he will write a very difficult math problem on the board outside the class. And if anyone solves it, their name will be written in golden letters in the college. He also motivates them by saying that some of his past students had solved such problems and today they are at the top of their field. This problem is very tough. So, Professor Gerald gives them time until the end of the semester to solve it. The lecture ends, and then we see a man named Will Hunting who works there as a janitor. He notices the math problem written by the professor. Later, when he goes home, he starts solving the equation on his bathroom mirror. The next day, when he is completely alone, he takes the chalk and writes the answer on the board. This was a very big deal because he solved such a hard problem in just one day. Other than work, Will spends most of his time hanging out with his friends. One day, when he was watching a baseball match, he saw a guy who used to bully him in school. As soon as Will saw him, anger burst out. He went near that guy with his friends and started a fight. In the end, Will took his revenge and beat him badly. His friends stopped him before things went too far. But by that time, the police had already arrived. When a police officer tried to stop Will, he attacked the officer too. Because of this, he got arrested. Meanwhile, Professor Gerald found out that the math problem he had written was already solved. He rushed to check and saw that someone had really solved it correctly. He asked some of his brilliant students if they had done it, but when they all denied, the professor was shocked. In his next class, the whole lecture hall was full. Everyone wanted to know who this secret math genius was. The professor said that whoever solved it should come forward so that he could give the prize. But the whole class just looked at each other, and no one stepped up. So, the professor wrote another math problem, which had taken him 2 years to solve. He said that whoever the genius is, surely won't solve this one in just a day. On the other side, Will had just come out of jail. He did his janitor work and immediately started solving that new problem. At that exact time, Gerald came out of his office and saw Will writing on the board. Thinking Will was just scribbling something useless, he tried to stop him. But Will ran away before Gerald reached him. Later, when Gerald checked the board, he saw that Will had actually solved the problem, the one that had taken him 2 years to figure out. Now Gerald finally knew who the secret genius was. After work, Will met his friends and went to a bar for some drinks. There, they noticed some pretty girls. Will's friend Chucky went up to them and started flirting. To impress them, Chucky lied and said that he studied at MIT too. He claimed to be a genius. Just then, another guy interrupted and asked, "Which class are you in?" Chucky randomly said history. That guy knew Chucky was lying, so he started making fun of him by asking tough history questions. Poor Chucky had no clue and stayed silent. At that moment, Will stepped in to defend his friend. He started debating with the guy. Will had a sharp memory, whatever he read, he never forgot. With clear facts and smooth words, he shut the guy up completely. Will even mocked him by saying, "You just memorized things from a book, didn't you? You're paying thousands of dollars to say the same things I read for free in the public library." Embarrassed, that guy left. After this, one of the girls, named Skylar, came up to Will. Impressed by his intelligence, she gave him her phone number and said, "Call me sometime when you're free." Later, Will proudly showed the number to that guy who had tried to act smart. Meanwhile, Professor Gerald was searching for the janitor who had solved his impossible problem. After asking around, he finally got Will's contact and went to his court hearing. Will was facing charges for attacking a police officer. In court, Will tried to defend himself, but the judge said that he already had passed charges like theft and assault. So, this time the judge could not ignore it. Will was sent to jail, and if he wanted bail, he had to pay $50,000. But in jail, Professor Gerald met him with a deal. He told Will, "I've spoken to the judge, and I can get you released. But you must agree to my 2 conditions. First, you will attend math sessions with me. And second, you must go to counseling." Will laughed at this but had no choice. He didn't want to stay in jail, so he agreed. Soon, he started math sessions with Gerald, who was shocked at Will's brilliance. Now, the second condition was therapy. But no matter how many therapists Will met, he never opened up. Instead, he mocked them. He used to read their books one day earlier and insult them the next day. Finally, as the last option, Professor Gerald went to his old friend Sean McGuire, who was now teaching psychology. At first, Sean refused, saying he had no time. But when Gerald explained that Will was very special and could ruin his life if not guided properly, Sean finally agreed to meet him. Like before, Will had already read Sean's book and started making fun of him during the session. But Sean stayed calm and spoke normally without forcing Will. Then, Will saw a painting in Sean's office. Painted by Sean himself. Looking at that, Will started saying random and rude things about Sean's personal life. When Will mentioned Sean's wife, Sean got angry. As soon as Will asked, "Where's your wife? Did she cheat on you?" Sean lost his temper. He grabbed Will by the throat and warned him never to insult his wife again. Will smirked and said, "Time's up." Sean let him go, and Will walked out, thinking he had broken another therapist. Professor Gerald thought Sean would refuse to continue. But surprisingly, Sean said yes. He told Gerald, "Bring him to me every week." After a counseling session, Will went on a date with Skylar. There he found out that she was from a very rich family and was studying at Harvard. They had a beautiful time together, and at the end of the date, they kissed. When Will met Sean again, Sean took him to a park. He said, "I thought a lot about what you said last time. And I realized, you are just a kid who doesn't know what he's talking about. You're rude, but I also think you're scared. You don't want to open up. But someday you'll have to, or else you'll lose all the good things in life." The next day, Will went with Chucky to a construction site for labor work. He called Skylar but was too scared to talk. In the third therapy session with Sean, he didn't say a single word. Sean also stayed silent. The fourth session started the same way, but this time Will broke the silence with a joke. Sean took it as a sign that Will was ready to talk. He asked if Will had a girlfriend. Will told him about Skylar and their wonderful first date. But then he admitted that he was afraid. He thought Skylar was too good for him and sooner or later she would realize that he wasn't good enough. Sean explained, "Nobody is better than anyone. Everyone has flaws. What matters is whether the person is right for you or not." Sean then shared about his own wife, saying she was amazing, but sometimes she would fart in her sleep. Hearing this, both Sean and Will burst into laughter. This broke the ice, and Will started feeling comfortable with Sean. Following Sean's advice, Will went to Skylar's college and asked her out again. Skylar said she was busy solving a tough problem. Will took the problem, solved it instantly on a napkin, and said, "Now you have no excuse. Come with me." On their second date, Skylar asked about Will's family. He lied and said he had 12 brothers. When Skylar asked for their names, he quickly listed 12 random names. She suspected he was lying and asked him to repeat them. Being a genius, Will repeated them in the exact same order. Later, during therapy, Will asked Sean if he regretted meeting his wife since her death left him so lonely. Sean shared the story of how he met her during a baseball game. Instead of going inside the stadium with his friends, he skipped the game to go on a date with her. That woman later became his wife. Will was shocked that Sean had missed such a historic game. But Sean said he never regretted it because the years he spent with her were the best of his life. Meanwhile, Skylar wanted to meet Will's family, but he kept lying about his past. When she insisted, he finally confessed the truth, that he was an orphan, beaten badly as a child, and had no real family. Skylar cried and said she loved him and would always stay with him. But Will pushed her away, saying he didn't need anyone's help. Finally, he lied again, saying, "I don't love you," and walked away, leaving Skylar heartbroken. Even after Gerald arranged top job interviews, Will didn't care. He sent Chucky in his place. During therapy, Sean asked Will what he really wanted to do in life. Will jokingly said, "Shepherd sheep." Sean got angry, saying, "Don't waste my time. If you don't answer honestly, then get out." Will stayed silent. Before Skylar left for California, she called Will and said, "I love you." Will smiled but was too scared to say it back. One day, while talking to Chucky, Will said he would never take a job and would keep working in construction. But Chucky told him honestly, "My biggest wish is that one morning when I come to pick you up, you're not here. Because you finally chose to do something great with your life. If I find you here 10 years from now, I'll be very disappointed." Meanwhile, Sean and Gerald argued about Will's future. Gerald wanted him to take a big job, but Sean said Will should choose for himself. Later, Sean showed Will his old case files with scars from his foster father's abuse. Sean then told Will, "What happened to you is not your fault." Will nodded but Sean repeated, "It's not your fault. Not your fault." Will finally broke down in tears, hugged Sean tightly, and cried. Now, he was ready to let go of his painful past. At the end of therapy, Will said goodbye to Sean, hugging him warmly. His friends had given him a car for his 21st birthday. Later, Sean packed for a world trip, and Gerald came to apologize for calling him a failure. The two friends reunited. Meanwhile, Will drove to Sean's house, left a letter in his mailbox, and left. Chucky came to pick him up but found his house empty. He smiled, realizing Will had finally moved on with his life. Sean opened the letter. In it, Will wrote that he wasn't taking the job. Instead, He was going to California to be with Skylar. Sean smiled and said, "Good for you, kid." If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button. And for more awesome movie recaps, make sure to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.